So we will call this to order. Welcome. I said that and I don't have it pulled up. First off, adjustments to the agenda. I have two. One, before we start anything, we're going to do an Act 46 committee report so our CPU representatives to the CPU board can listen and then take off. And second, in the consent agenda, 8.3.5, D17, the teacher evaluation supervision. This is actually mislabeled there. We're actually repealing that, but actually for us, we've never, it was something this board's never consented to in the first place, so it really doesn't matter to us too much. So that is just changing. So, having said all that, Act 46, the committee report. Those of you that are at the CSSU meeting have heard most of this. The Act 46 study committee has started up. The last few meetings have really been sort of laying the groundwork for the work that needs to get done over the next month or two. There's a couple subcommittees that have been set up dealing with governance, with financials, and with communications. Those have all met. Governance and communications have met once. The others are to meet in the near future. For our board, one of the things we were discussing is one of the things required by the law is there has to be a public forum on Act 46, and we're hoping just to append it on to our budget forum meeting. It will be a separate delineated section of that meeting. In fact, it would be completely separate, sort of run by the Act 46 committee, but really by us as members of this board with some other folks there. As long as everybody on the board is okay with that.
Yep.
In fact, if we make that formal and just say, I make a motion that we allow the Act 46 committee to make a presentation after our budget forum meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So that's just some house cleaning. I really don't have much on Act 46 tonight, unless somebody has a question or a comment on that. There will be much more next month. See the committee report then?
I have two inputs from a community member.
Please.
One of them was, is anyone looking at transferring the Charlotte School District assets to the town? Physical assets, meaning the building? Is that something that is looked at as part of this?
It has not been looked at yet, no.
So that was one question. And then the other question is anyone looking at the cost of saying no? So should Charlotte vote, no, we don't want to do this, is someone analyzing what the cost would be to our individual town?
So my overall comment is both of those things are, we've thought about. The no question, what it costs to say no will be specifically addressed and has started to be specifically addressed, and there's financial modeling going on that sort of answer that question. Does that answer sort of?
Yeah, I'm feeding information to you. Should I just send it to you guys if I get emails about it?
Sure.
Or do I send it to the whole committee? What's the?
Yeah,
I
send
think
it.
they asked it to board chair.
Yeah, send it to me, and then I'll send it on.
If it needs to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can go from there.
And as they said in the CSSU meeting, they're building a website and Facebook pages, and all their meetings and the subcommittee meetings are open to the public. So if anyone has an interest, it should be posted when and where all those things are.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah. Thank you.
We go next door.
Yeah.
More action.
Have fun.
Thanks, guys. So moving back on to the regular scheduled meeting. 3.0, audience and communications. This is an opportunity for those of you who are here to raise issues that aren't on the agenda. So do I have anything in particular this evening? Okay. We'll move right into presentations. We have a presentation this evening from Stephanie Sumner in regards to extended learning opportunities.
Do we want some light?
Oh, yeah.
You read what you need to read.
I think so. Thanks, Nathan. So I'm here to report on the CCS summer programming for the summer of 2015. There are really 4 components of our summer programming that I'll be talking about, and the first is academic support. At CCS, we offer just a general academic support summer school for students in kindergarten through 6th grade, primarily focusing on literacy and math, and targeted skill and concept development and reinforcement and maintenance of learning that has occurred in previous years for those students to support their current level of proficiency. And it's also, I would say that it's both proactive and preventative, really trying to address the issue of summer slide, that we do see students who are struggling to reach proficiency levels already, particularly in literacy and math, regress over the summer months, and there's a tremendous amount of research and data around how much those students actually lose every summer if there's not some programming built in for them. So at CCS, throughout the year, we conduct quarterly team level data reviews. We have monthly EST meetings, and through those processes, we're constantly looking at student data and progress monitoring. And throughout those processes, in the spring, during those final meetings, we make recommendations of students that we feel would really benefit from summer programming. We get in touch with families and we offer this as an option. It's a completely voluntary option for families. And then once that's committed to and we have response, there's contact out with all the core academic teachers for those students. So classroom teachers and core content teachers give input into specifically what would this student most benefit from. Materials are provided. Students' most recent assessments are provided. We really try to match summer programming with what students have had throughout the school year, because we know that that's best practice in maintaining their current levels of proficiency or even promoting them gaining proficiency over the summer. This year, our summer program ran from July 7th through August 7th, so we had 20 days of summer programming. We had 20 students attending. I've already spoken about the fact that this was developed through data reviews and EST meetings. So the structure was that our summer school ran from 8 to 12 every day, and that had built-in time for planning with our providers. We had 3 paraeducators who served as our providers, and then we have 1 teacher from CCS overseeing our summer program, and so there was time built in for planning and consultation, but also students came in 90-minute blocks so that we could see as many students as possible within the morning. Michelle Filardi serves as our coordinator. She has for the past few summers. Michelle does a lot of the pre and post organizing and planning, all of the contact with teachers, materials, training of our providers, and then throughout the Institute, she really provides about 2 to 3 hours of weekly coordination with our providers. I already spoke around our part-time staffing. In terms of what they're using, before we go into Shadercroft, in terms of what they're using to really guide them, we use the data around reading comprehension, reading fluency, our benchmark assessment system,
a lot of work with our math fact fluency assessments and with program-based assessments for students needing concept and problem-solving support. Thanks, Megan. Students in our middle level participate in the Shader-Croft program, which is its own program, and it's a program that CCS has had contract with for about 3 years. Shader-Croft offers a 5-week, 20-day program that really specializes its design around the needs of adolescents and middle schoolers, and it's literacy focused. So this again is for students who are struggling to reach grade level proficiency. The primary areas in terms of literacy that are focused on at Shader-Croft are reading comprehension, reading fluency, vocabulary development, written expression, and oral expression. They also have a significant focus on youth development, and the 3 areas in which they really focus on in terms of youth development are confidence building, developing positive peer and adult relationships, and building independence. Kind of the highlights of the Shader-Croft program are that it's very student-centered. So within this program, with all of the literacy and youth development focus, that's all built around an identified target area for each student. And I think this goes directly in line with personalized learning and everything we're talking about with personalized learning. Students identify really an area of interest or an area of study, and everything that is focused on their literacy work through the summer and their development work through the summer is tied into that one area of focus. There's still the recommendation from their core teachers around what types of skills and concepts they would really benefit from in terms of what they would work on through the summer. And within that, the students actually each week self-select a learning target or a goal. So this week in reading comprehension, in my in-depth study, we had a student who was really looking at the game warden profession and fish and wildlife. And within that, every week he would pick a reading comprehension goal, and all of the reading would be built around his specific area of interest, but also what the concepts and skills he needed to work on. And then he would pick, this week, this is the one I'm focusing on. And they would do that for reading comprehension, for their written expression, and their oral expression. The experiential part of it is that in the morning when they're doing all of their academic work, they go out into the field. They go out and they do really adventure-based learning is how they describe it. So the students are maybe doing some mentoring, maybe doing some field observations, but really getting to get out into the community and connect with adults and connect with other peers with similar interests. The focus there is more on not only gaining knowledge, but also their oral expression, their communication skills, and how they apply that. It's really kind of work-based training. The entire program is very relationship-based. It's very unique for adolescents. It's definitely the kind of programming that has high engagement, that keeps them committed, because they're committing to 5 weeks of 8 to 4:30 in the middle of their summer. Our extended school year program is offered
So
through.
wait, I'm sorry, so
Sure,
that was
go
for
ahead.
the 7th and 8th?
That is
grade?
actually offered for students leaving 5th grade, so students coming into 6th, 7th, or 8th grade.
So and that other program was just K.
Is K6. And for Shader-Croft, we had 7 students participate this summer. Our extended year program is organized within our special education. The CCS Extended School Year program is available for any student who's eligible for an IEP, and the identification of students for this program really comes through the team working around that student's IEP, coming to agreement that summer programming is needed based on 2 primary factors. One is the severity of the student's disability, and how much that would present a danger of substantial regression for that student over the summer months, or that there has been a significant amount of regression over the past winter, spring, summer months that indicates that we need to put some programming in over the summer to prevent further slide back for those students. This summer, that ran from July 7th to August 5th, so there were 18 days. We had 7 students take advantage of that, and that also was just mornings only, 3 days a week. So as we're looking at our summer programming and already starting to think ahead to summer programming and planning for next year, conversations that have been going on have really been centered around ideas for strengthening the CCS summer programming, because we have the data that's showing that students that are attending regularly are not showing regression in their reading levels, regression in their fluency. They're maintaining math concepts and skills that they've worked very hard to develop. So in looking at ideas for strengthening that, the input from our summer program providers and with team-based discussions has been to think about surveying families that are offered this opportunity to look at what are the greatest benefits for them and the desired outcomes for their students. What are the greatest barriers to them accessing this program? Because we offered it to about 40 students this year, so we had about a 50% response rate. Looking at suggestions for the improvement of offering, there's always been conversation around addressing the barrier of transportation for some families. And through that, we've talked about how can we coordinate with other schools in our supervisory union? How can we analyze other models that are being used at the other schools in our SU? How might we pair this with things like rec offerings or grant-funded opportunities or service learning to maybe provide some extended day opportunities for students who need not only academic support, but perhaps other types of enrichment. And then to just continue to increase the level of our database decision-making with families, sharing the data about your child's reading level in the spring is here, and if they come back in the fall and it's still there, that's a really great thing. If they come back and they've gained a reading level, that's even better. But just being more transparent with families about why are we offering this service, what are the benefits, just to increase family support and buy-in. So other summer opportunities that are currently offered at CCS, we're really just going to talk about this one, which is the Classical Connections Summer Reading Program. So this is offered collaboratively through CCS and through the Charlotte Public Library. And I would say that this is not only academic support, but it also offers a lot of enrichment to students. The summer program this year was the 5th year of this at CCS, and this is provided collaboratively by Heidi Hustis, Cheryl Sloan, who's the youth service librarian at the Charlotte Library, Kathy Foley, who's a retired CCS educator and now works with the Young Writers Project, comes back and offers some services to this as well. And it's just a really unique program that pairs the reading of a modern novel with a classic novel to really get kids going back to classics. This year, they read The Great Wide Sea by M.H. Herlong and also read Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. There's a focus on not only reading and writing, but also making some community connections through this experience. And our community connections, I think, are very rich with this. It's locally sponsored. This program's actually made available through grant funds, and there's been a tremendous investment by Alex Kroll, a community member, whose this project was really the brainchild of Alex. We have support from Vermont Department of Libraries, from the Young Writers Project. This summer, we were able to collaborate with the Lake Champlain Community Sailing Center for students to actually have an experiential learning, not activity, just a really deep experience with this. We were also supported with local donations, and Front Porch Forum supported part of this. We had 20 students. We run a morning session and an afternoon session so that we're able to make this available to as many students as possible. Mostly due to the physical constraints right now, there's a waiting list every year, so we're looking at ways to expand this next year to make it available to more students. Sign up is by choice. There's always really heavy interest in this. It's well promoted through our own library program, but also through our middle level classrooms. We also use this to kind of increase engagement and support summer reading for students who are a little less likely to do that. Our middle level, our Omega team at 7-8 lets students count this toward their yearly expectation of books completed. So we definitely have had high participation and interest in this program. It's at no cost to the parents or the school, and I would say it's highly beneficial to the students that participate in it. So that's our summer programming at CCS. That's okay.
Stephanie, of the 20 kids that attended the first program that you're talking about,
Right.
how many go the entire 20 days?
So I looked at that. We only had one student who did the entire 20 days. And I would say one of the barriers that we're looking at is just the timing around vacations, around camps, around things that are already planned. So there's definitely an impact there. When I looked at that, we had 75% of our students attend between 50 and 100% of the sessions. We had it was about 25% that attended 75% of the days or more. Very small percentage that attended less than 50% of the time.
And is there a reason why it's 4 weeks for an hour and a half versus 2 weeks or 3 hours? Or as far as, I know you want to prevent the summer slide, but as far as transportation and camps and everything else, did you talk about like the benefits of doing maybe 3 weeks versus 4? It seems like a lot of the summer, even though it's only 4 weeks, but July 7th to August 7th seems like.
Right. We have talked about that. Perhaps condensing it, but making it 5 days a week, but for a smaller portion. We've also talked about it the other way. We've talked about spreading it out throughout the summer for more consistency for students. Some of that gets very difficult around the professional development that's frequently planned, usually right at the end of the school year for teachers. There's usually a little July burst in there, and then August gets very heavy. But I do think that looking at a fewer number of weeks might be part of addressing the barriers.
Any other questions? Just on the library, that we saw up there, my daughter, it was fantastic. The child who went to that camp had a great time and got a lot out of it. It was really cool. So if you have a chance,
Yeah, I would have loved my son to do it, but transportation is tricky for that. But those were the 2 books he read for the summer. So I think even for parents who can't access that camp, that's a good way to say a lot of your peers are going to be reading these 2 books when you go back to school. Same sort of.
all right, thank you. Moving on, reports to the board. Act 46 we already talked about. So let's do the principal's report. Is there anything you want to highlight for us?
So I have a few things. So under community engagement, I mentioned that we have connected with the Charlotte Senior Center to create a service learning project, and we actually went yesterday as our first day, and the feedback was that the community members were very pleased to see the CCS students. And 2 students came up to me afterwards and said, "That was fun." So I think we're off to a great start with that, and that is just the beginning of imagining for a service learning program for the 5th, 6th grade. The beginning of their leadership development. Another piece to highlight is around the Climate Action Plan. I wanted to just highlight that there will be a report to the board on the final Climate Action Plan. Just remembering that the last one was a draft, so we'll report to you on the final one. And there will be also an update at that time on the behavior system, including the role of the new behavior system response coordinator, and this is planned for the November meeting. I also wanted to point out that we will also be planning an information session around the similar topics through the PTO to reach out to more parents around that topic. And around the CCS staff professional development update, I just wanted to point out that it said so far grades 6-8, grades 3-5, what we have grades 1-2. K1-2, having studio time. And just want to also highlight that this model, as a new person looking in, has been pretty effective. I'm seeing improvement in math practices, but beyond that, improvement in how teachers teach every other subject area as well. So this has been having a lot of traction, and I think it's due to the way it's taught. It's professional development that is embedded. It includes teachers watching other teachers and then talking about it. It includes teachers being observed and getting immediate feedback. Really effective practices there. And then on the bus rider update, just wanted to point out the red noon bus. You may have already noticed that it's pre-K. That was missing. It's pre-K. Great. Any questions?
No.
That was great. I guess there was a lot of really good information in there. Thank you.
All right. Operations and maintenance, 3 to 5 year plan.
Okay. So there is an update that was given to folks around the second page, which is the 7-year capital plan. And just to give you an understanding of why there's an update, there was a safety committee meeting yesterday that provided very helpful, useful information that informed that the upgrade to the fire alarm system should be moved to 17-18, and the renovate school main entry should be moved to 16-17. Now I'll start from the beginning and go through it. That was just to tell you that why there's an additional piece of paper. So looking at the maintenance and operations projects, wanting to point out that the things at the top are the most urgent things, and things underneath kitchen equipment are the least urgent. So they have been prioritized in the way this was written out. And I'd like to know if you'd like me to go through each one, or would you like to ask any questions? Which way do you prefer?
My big worry is, what we learned about our allowable increase on the budget is that these get pushed aside. I mean, that's our tendency. The maintenance stuff gets pushed aside. So this is going to be like an ongoing thing as our budget stuff goes forward, I think.
Yeah, so but really this first page is sort of the year-to-year maintenance we've always baked into the budget.
It includes things for upkeep. It includes things around toilets. It includes things about keeping up with exterior paint, interior painting. It also includes some efficiency upgrades that came directly from the energy audits. And it also includes things that we must do. For example, the air handler overhaul. Pretty much, we have 8. We have to do 1 a year. That's a way to keep up to it. It's a maintenance plan. So this includes all of that.
And the second page,
Second page is looking a little further out. It's looking at a little bit bigger items. The 7-year capital plan has one section that says the annual contribution to construction fund. And that you've seen before. So that is in there at $25,000. Then the next set of things I want to point out have been separated from anything related to the 1939 building. And that's for a reason. That's because there's going to be further conversation at the facilities committee, then brought to the board to determine how best to proceed. So that's why that is completely separate. And the proposal in the 7-year capital plan have next year include, if you look at the bottom of the note, the committee recommends, it's a facilities committee, recommends funding the renovate the school's main entry through a voter-approved transfer from fund balance. That is what's being proposed through this. The $25,000 for the annual contribution to construction fund, the recommendation by the committee is to put forth a decision packet for this.
you may remember that was part of last year's decision packets that we decided not to go through. It would be nice to have that.
Any questions?
So that will inform our budgeting as we go forward. That was,
And if I come up in the budget process,
Yes.
can you give us just a little bit of detail now around what those renovations look like in the front door?
The renovate school main entry?
Yeah.
That one specifically. So that one is, that came to the forefront at the meeting yesterday, the safety committee meeting, that there is need for more efficiency in the entry, safety, and a welcoming climate. So that one, that renovation would address all three. So it really would have a positive, strong impact on all three. As for what it would look like, that is still to be developed. There are a number of ideas, but one of them includes a second set of doors that would be able to keep the heat in, and a reception counter in the center to welcome people and have a positive presence and availability and access to a person as people walk in, and perhaps some kind of flooring for safety, so that's some carpeting, as well as perhaps some furniture for people to sit and relax as they're waiting children. But that vision is to be developed further by that committee.
And what's the safety component? What is lacking for safety now?
So the safety component is if you're creating an area where you're having a person front and center, there needs to be a way to have a barrier to the outside, so that's why you have, it's another reason, another benefit of having the second set of doors. The second set of doors would offer that. It also would allow, the second set of doors allow for the entire entry to be contained. So the second set of doors, along with another piece on here for a much smaller amount of money, is to have the magnetic doors be able to be locked, and that'll allow the front hall to be a contained space. So there's safety potential in that.
Thank you.
anything else right now? CSSU debrief. The report's in here. Nothing huge from CSSU tonight. We went through the Act 46 stuff, which was brought up there as well. Again, am I forgetting something?
No, I don't think so.
Nothing,
I mean, I think
there's nothing to call out.
nothing that's not already
Yeah.
on for a discussion matter.
And 5.5, the Sustainability Committee has come this evening to give us an update.
Should I?
Yeah, wherever you feel most comfortable.
And should the lights be on? Are you doing a?
Well, I have a very short video, but I don't know. You don't have it?
Is it like in your email?
It's on this.
Oh.
yeah. I had trouble getting it.
Oh, you can. Well, let's see.
oh, yes, it would be called, it's the free space. And it's, I'll let you be honest.
Go from there?
So if I just click it, you think it'll, oh, no,
So it's a
I think this is where we got.
Is it a Google, like, did it originate as a Google Drive? If you logged yourself into Google, would you get it out?
Possibly. We can also, if it's
Okay.
fresh, we can also see.
I don't think this.
It's a very short video that Ed Bianchi made by photographing the garden area with his drone.
I saw when he was doing it that day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to start? I might be able to get it in my email.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wherever you're feeling most comfortable.
Okay, so thank you for having me, for having the Sustainability Committee. I'm representing a committee made up of teachers, staff, administrative parents, community volunteer that has become a new school committee this year. We've been, various smaller groupings of us have been called the Green Team, the 4 R's, Food Squad. For the past year and a half, we've had a Farm to School committee in connection with our grant. So all of this has come together now. We've renamed ourselves, which we've been doing annually, but I think this is the last time. So now the Sustainability Committee, to really be the umbrella of all of these efforts and several new ideas that have come up recently, to look at the whole school community through a sustainability lens. And what I think is a really nice thing about this committee is that it pairs operational aspects of the school as well as classroom and curricular, curricular things that are already happening and lots of curricular activities. A couple of examples of that. Students have become very experienced at this point in sorting their trash as part of a school-wide effort to really reduce trash. And every year we've been able to do that to a greater extent. So students at this point are very used to, in classrooms, there'll be, well, here there are 2, but there'll be 3 options to sort your trash. So everything is going landfill as a last resort, composting and recycling. And in the cafeteria, which is where we started this, that sorting table has been extended. It used to be 3 options. It's now a long row of options as they get more and more sophisticated in where things go. And as a result, we've been able to reduce the landfill trash that the school creates by a very significant amount. The first year or 2, we pretty much halved it. We used to have 2 dumpsters that went to the landfill. That was reduced to 1. In the past couple of years, our hauling hasn't been reduced necessarily by quite as much. It's been rearranged because we create so much more recyclables now and so much more composting. And we have a hauling contract for our composting. Anyway, all moving in the right direction, but as we find in this process, there are shifts. It's not always a linear progression in one direction. The landscape shifts, and there's new learning opportunities. The 6th graders, as you may know, are managers of the composting that we do at school. So this started last school year. We're now in year 2 of on-site composting, where all students separate in the cafeteria, and those food scraps are taken once a week by 6th graders who follow a fairly elaborate recipe for creating compost. And one year it was quite an experiment, but we really had a successful year. We created compost and didn't have any big issues with vectors or anything else that we were hoping we wouldn't attract. So we're happy with our first year, and one of the most exciting lessons is that we can absorb significantly more food scraps than we started out with. We started out quite cautiously and can absorb more. So even more of our cafeteria scraps will be composted at school. And then we'll take that and we add it to our gardens And the students are they really understand this looping concept at this point, where it goes into the gardens and we grow more food for the cafeteria, they eat it, and we're constantly feeding various organisms in a really nice loop. Chris Gerson's class has also done some exceptional work in reducing waste and presenting to the town about that, and then being almost hired as assistants to reduce the waste at the town party. So actually connecting to some of the topics earlier this evening, there is a service learning wasn't necessarily on the list of goals initially for this committee, but it has come up regularly, where students are able to serve as advocates and share their expertise and their learning in very real life settings. Sixth graders have had that opportunity several times as well. One was they presented last year at the State House. We were selected as one of several schools to present at the State House. And for that they created all sorts of presentation materials. And that presentation right now is at the town library in Charlotte. So if you have an opportunity there, you'll see the whole composting display that they built. This work has been funded through various grants up until now. The most significant one was the $10,000 implementation grant that we received from the Agency of Agriculture, but numerous other grants, and I cannot even begin to tally up how many hours of volunteer work from many members at school, but also the Rotary Club and local builders in the construction of the shed, and various other elements of the program. So, which is a wonderful way to build community, and the enthusiasm builds, and we get all sorts of expertise, and people who may not have a connection to the school otherwise feel a connection this way. From the largest grant that we had last year, we were able to do quite a bit of physical expansion in the garden. We're starting to call it the edible schoolyard, as it really expands beyond straightforward gardening. So that we're very happy about, and expand the connections into the community and also within the school. Again, off the operations side as well as the curricular side. More students were involved, more staff as well. We just last week held the third in a series of professional development workshops that we were able to lead. We hired trainers from Shelburne Farms, and Stephanie Konowitz, the science coach, joined us as well to really help teachers make the immediate link about the things that they can do outside, and how they can teach things outside and have them be directly NGSS aligned. We had two, and there was so much positive response from that we were able to organize a third. And then in terms of actual food production, we this year we're still harvesting. Last year we harvested close to 400 pounds of ecologically, organically grown food that went straight into the cafeteria. Students helped plant it, harvest it, bring it to Elizabeth, and I can't tell you with how much pride on their face. Elizabeth is a wonderful connection in all of this, and they bring things to her, and then she's wonderful about writing it on the board, and so she'll say, cherry tomatoes from the school garden, or spinach from the school garden. And she has told me that her numbers are up. I'm sure it varies month to month, but as a general trend, lunch participation is up. And I don't think that we can draw a straight line connecting, but it's tempting to, because it does sort of line up. And I can say anecdotally, the amount of interest in new foods and eating fresh foods is very evident when I'm outside with students. I promised the student I wouldn't reveal her identity, but one in particular was stuffing her pockets full of spinach, making sure the teacher wasn't looking, but had so much additional spinach in her pockets, and then had to show somebody, look, I'm taking it all. just as an indication of the degree of enthusiasm, and if kids aren't excited about fresh spinach, then it's all fine with me. The PTO has very generously offered and been able to continue to support this work for this year. And so we're continuing with everything that we started before and have actually added a few additional projects. 6th grade, in addition to, so last year's 5th graders, now 6th graders have a little less research to do on composting, so they're kind of just falling into the managerial role and continuing with that. And have taken on a new research project, are working with a regional effort to look at water, especially water runoff, and as it runs off and then of course goes into the lake, and we're all concerned about lake health. So they are working with various organizations in the community and towns as well to do that original research. And energy conservation, you were just talking about double doors kind of thing, has come up. Several people have brought that up as an interest. So that's something that we would like to formalize a little bit more, and students are quick sometimes to point out these lights are on and these computers were on, and add that to sort of the culture of the school, more awareness and conservation and greater energy efficiency. Let's see, just quick exciting thing. Last week we had a visit. The State Department of Agriculture came to visit. They wanted to visit they weren't able to visit in the spring, but she was able to come last week, and she had a visitor, a researcher from New Zealand who's studying sustainable food systems and was very curious about how that's being taught and practiced and demonstrated at schools. So he visited 4 schools in Vermont, and we were one of them. So that was a wonderful honor. And a specific project that we're doing at school, which I think is fairly unusual for a school garden, is that we started growing shiitake mushrooms. So this year's 8th graders, when they were in 6th grade, was the first spring that we inoculated logs with shiitake spores. And they need at least 12 months, commonly 18, before they start to fruit. So, and then last year's students did it as well. So we're adding 5 to 6 logs every year. I have them kind of tucked in the under a tree in the shade, and trying to keep them moist. And these visitors were there, and I wanted to show them that, and I said, well, so here are the logs, and I lifted one up, and there were shiitakes. And it was the first time we had them, and 4 logs have started to fruit. So I harvested the first batch, and Elizabeth has them, and we have shiitake mushrooms on our lunch offerings now. So, and then one quick, there's so many elements of this, but one additional thing tying also to what you were explaining earlier about summer programming. So we've, the past 2 summers, we've offered 2 weeks of summer camp in the garden. The summer can be a hard time for a school garden, because that's, there's no students. It's that when the garden needs the most work. So we have a nice collaborative in town with Transition Town and the library garden and the church garden. So actually have plenty of adult volunteers at this point to help with watering and weeding, but we also have 2 weeks of summer camp kind of strategically placed apart from each other. So they really do a lot of garden work, but I think also more significantly, it's an opportunity for students to really get the rich experience that it is. And they do gardening as well as cooking. So maybe it's not quite as much an official program of the school, but many CCS students have participated in that. And then when they come back to school, they'll let me know, I planted that, I harvested that over the summer. So I'll leave it at that. Is it up? Oh, great, nice. So this is a very quick overview if you're not familiar with this area.
Thank you.
so much for our school, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sounds great. Thank you. So, moving on. I can't compete with that. To the facility committee. There's a report, page 28, 29 of your packet, somewhere in there. Just the wrap up of the construction projects from the summer. We came in under even our lower budget, so there's about $7,000. We came in about $7,000 under even our lower budget. So, does anybody have questions about that particular report?
Good job.
Did it all myself. Discussion matters, 6.1, getting onto the budget. SU purchase services. Did a quick thing on this at CSSU. This is the things we are, some required and some optional purchases from the SU. Anybody have particular questions or comments?
Well, I think as Megan suggested, it'd be good for us to get the breakdown of what is required that CY offers. And as was said at that earlier meeting, we all value all the things we get from CY, but we're looking at a really, really challenging budget year. So to know exactly our full range of options would be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I sort of envision that coming back at the next meeting.
Yep.
With a really, I mean, it was, the prevention framework work was shared to the board probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half, but not specific to the sense of here's what's required and here are the different ways to deliver those services, and here's the qualification of the person that you need to deliver. So, yeah.
It's sort of a breakout of the cost, you know, that's 75% of your budget line
Right.
item for that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think, you know, the things we purchased from the SU, I think it just makes sense to keep doing it that way. I can't imagine we could get it for, you know,
Right.
we couldn't outsource it more cheaply, so.
I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot as we get into the budget process, as soon as we get some more concrete numbers. So the budget, talking further, the budget forum preparations, we talk about this every year. It's budget forum, 3 people show up, usually 3 people sitting right there. And we can reform our PowerPoint presentation and go forward from there. Maybe there'll be a little more interest this year if we have the Act 46 forum right after it.
Yeah, I think it'd be better turnout with that combination, and for a lot of people, those two issues really go hand in hand.
Well, and you know, we're kind of, we're actually a little later in the budget cycle for our forum this year, so we'll have a little more information to go into. If anybody has any brilliant ideas about how to pep that up, I'm all ears.
And you'll just get like Bob, or
Yes.
it's not Tammy, who's Bob's?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Like, she could probably get it to you soon.
Yeah, and then we'll go take a look at it from there. We can recirculate it. Budget buddies, we have 3.
We have 3.
Which is great.
Debbie
Andrew,
Deal,
thank you.
Andrew, and
Debbie
Judy.
Deal.
I'm sorry, Andrew, Judy, and who?
Debbie Deal.
Oh, good, good.
I know we'll get some information out to them
Yes.
shortly.
Yes.
It's
Thank
good.
you. Thank you both for volunteering.
Yeah, have fun. Policies, there's 2 policies in the discussion. Does anybody have any particular? No, they're pretty straightforward this week. Communication Board's Corner, the Act 46 committee is putting together some FAQs and articles, hopefully to go into local paper to start that. So there'll be a factual, objective information on what's going forward right now. So that is in the process. Anybody else have any other ideas for an article, or? I think
Will
that's
that be
good.
ready for our next?
I will find out tomorrow morning.
November 5th.
5.
November 5th is the next issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, probably.
Good.
Yeah, I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning. 7.0 action matters. Approve the copier bid. So the copier bid went out for rebid. OSV came back as the winning bid and has been accepted by administration. Mason. It's in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving on, the consent agenda. Other than the change I mentioned at the beginning, is there anything we need to pull out? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Director's comments.
I don't know what's going on. This meeting is so short.
That don't jinx it because the rest of them aren't going to be this short.
So I have a director's comment. I thank you to Stephanie and Barbara Ann for trying the new thing for the open house. I think people liked that model. My one, I don't know if it's a suggestion, but something maybe you can think about in future years is maybe having 2, like a K4 or something, and then in older grades. And because when you come here to CVU, you kind of can travel around to your kid's classroom and get a brief overview from the teacher. And it seemed, I felt at least up in 7th grade, where this is my 3rd round going to those teachers, but it seemed like you just sort of were in a line waiting, and it felt, I don't know, I just wonder if something to think about going forward is sort of that, like just doing even, or maybe you even just have all the 7th graders in one place and the teachers sort of cycle through, an hour and a half that you're there, and the, PE teacher comes. And so just my one little recommendation is maybe. But otherwise, I think it was great. I think people like this new way a lot.
Susan? Okay, here. I have a couple. One I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Clyde is going to the VSBA meeting. If you have any comments or policies you wish him to discuss, please send him an email. 2, a set of congratulations, and I'll forget somebody, so forgive me. 1, the girls cross-country team, congratulations for winning the Chittenden County championship meet at Children Farm, at Children Museum. 2, the 5th, 6th grade spelling bee group who won their meet. And 3, to all the students for their performance on the SBAC exams for our school, which performed well above both national, state, and SU averages. So it was really a good showing by our school.
National comparison or just the state?
Just this.
We're assuming.
Just I'm sure you missed
You're knocking me down. Yes, no, they did really well.
And Megan set us up to have really low expectations. So that's a really nice thing.
So for the first year of having those exams, our kids were really well prepared. That was really great. Next meeting dates, they're listed here. There's a bunch of them. So be aware.
Just a reminder that the common topic is actually special ed,
Yep,
not tech.
next year.
So if folks, and it's the the first round of seeing the special ed portion of the budget. So if you're not normally at the SU meeting, but you want to see that, be the time to see it.
We have nothing for executive session, and I have nothing else, unless anybody else wants to bring something. We're adjourned.